The 1,000-year lantern. Rain pressed its face to the glass. Wind worried the eaves. Night leaned close. The lantern burned anyway. It hung from an iron hook at the heart of the Watcher's Hall. A small sun caught in a cage of filigreed brass. Its flame was not bright so much as enduring. A steady gold that never guttered, never smoked, never bowed to drafts. Outside, the storm scrolled its anger across the hills. But inside the lantern kept its long promise, as it had for 912 years. Eliane stood beneath it and felt the weather echo his thoughts. The rain seemed impatient, drumming its fingers, as if counting what little time remained. The wind sighed through the shutters like a thing that knew secrets. Even the walls, old with lichen and prayer, felt closer tonight. He lifted the glass chimney and trimmed nothing. There was nothing to trim. The flame trembled anyway. That was how he knew. The 1,000-year lantern did not flicker. It did not falter for grief or cold or age. It burned until the moment it did not. And when it died, so did its guardian. Every child in the valley knew the tale. Every watcher accepted the bond. When Eliane had been chosen at 30, when the flame leaned toward him as if recognizing an old friend, he had bowed and taken the years without bargaining. He had expected to die an old man. The flame shivered again. A quick, nervous thing, like a bird startled from sleep. Outside, thunder rolled too close for comfort. Eliane's breath fogged the glass. "Not yet," he murmured, though the lantern had never answered words. It answered time. He had counted its remaining years by calendars and constellations, by the slow whitening of his beard and the steady ache in his knees. There should have been decades left. Plenty of dawns, plenty of storms. The flame dipped. The hall seemed to lean with it, rafters creaking as if in sympathy. Rain slanted harder, as though the sky itself were leaning in to see. Something was wrong with the years. Eliane wrapped his cloak tighter and stepped into the storm. The path down the hill had worn itself smooth with centuries of feet. Guardians, petitioners, mourners. Tonight, it glistened like a blade. The wind pushed at his shoulders, urging him downhill faster than he liked, and the rain needled his face, as if accusing him of something he had yet to do. The village lay crouched in the valley, roofs huddled together, chimneys breathing out thin threads of smoke that the rain flattened. Lights winked in windows like cautious eyes. When Eliane passed, doors opened just enough for people to look and then close again. They felt it too. The change in the air, the wrongness, pathetic fallacy, the old scholars would have said. But the villagers did not need a word for it. They knew when the weather spoke. At the archive, the keeper was awake. She always was, during the storms. Old Merla sat with her ledgers open, a kettle steaming beside her, the lamplight turning the rain on the windows into crawling gold. "You felt it?" she said before Eliane spoke. Merla's voice had the grain of well-read parchment. Her eyes flicked past him, up the hill, as if she could see the lantern through stone and rain. "It flickered," Eliane said, saying it made the word heavier. "It's losing years." Merla closed the ledger with care. "Then someone is taking them." They went down into the stacks, where the air smelled of damp wool and ink. The records of the lantern filled a wall. Names of guardians, dates of choosing, dates of passing. Eliane traced the columns with his finger, feeling the weight of all those lives given in exchange for light. "Has this happened before?" he asked. Merla shook her head. "Never early. Not once." Thunder cracked so close, the shelves trembled. Dust fell like pale rain. The storm seemed to listen as they read. Two hunched closer as if to overhear. They found the first anomaly 3 years back. A note in the margin of a census, written in a hand that did not match Merla's careful script. "Borrowed warmth. Returned. Known." Then another, a year later. A petition denied by the council. Request for access to the Watcher's Hall after dusk. Denied. Denied again. Denied a third time, with a sharper pen. "Who would think to steal years?" Eliane asked. Merla's mouth tightened. "Someone desperate enough to confuse light with mercy." They found him in the old mill by the river, where the rain had swollen the banks and the water roared like an argument that refused to end. The mill's wheel turned without purpose, creaking, driven by a river that had forgotten what it was made for. Jonas stood inside, Palestallo, a mirror of exhaustion. His hands shook as if the storm had taken up residence in his bones. When he saw Elian's cloak, his shoulders sagged, not with relief, but with the weight of being seen. "I didn't mean to take so much," Jonas said, before accusation could find him. His eyes kept straying to the lantern. Elian carried its flame hooded now, slight subdued by the storm, just enough to see my daughter grow. The river beat the mill walls in a steady, hungry rhythm. Jonas showed them the device he had made, a coil of wire and glass, etched with symbols half remembered from prayers and half invented from grief. He had crept up the hill on nights when the wind screamed loud enough to cover his steps. He had held the coil near the lantern and felt warmth pour into him. Not heat, but duration. The years had tasted like honey and metal. He had not noticed the flicker until it was too late. "I thought the lantern had more than it needed," Jonas whispered. 1,000 years is so many, I thought. "You thought the weather was just weather," Mirla said softly, and the rain hammered harder, as if you thought the sky would forgive you. Elian felt no anger, only the drag of time, suddenly heavy as wet wool. He lifted the lantern. The flame trembled, drawn toward Jonas, recognizing the thief as one recognizes a mirror. "Give them back," Elian said. Jonas shook his head, tears cutting clean lines down his cheeks. "I can't. They're in me now. If I let them go, you will age," Mirla said. "As you should have." The storm pressed closer. Wind moaned through the mill's broken boards. The river surged, its voice rising, as if urging a choice. Jonas fell to his knees. "Then take me," he said to Elian. "Let the lantern drink what it needs." Elian looked at the flame and felt the truth settle like silt. The lantern did not take by force. It answered offerings. It burned on what was given freely. He set the lantern on the mill's stone floor. The flame steadied, then leaned. Jonas closed his eyes. The years flowed back like a tide reversing. Jonas's hair silvered in moments. His back bowed. His breath shortened. The storm eased as if satisfied, rain slackening to a steady, penitent fall. When the last borrowed year left him, Jonas slumped, alive but old, held together by the ordinary mercy of still breathing. The flame rose, strong again. They left Jonas to the river's roar and climbed the hill together. Mirla and Elian, the weather quieting as they went. By the time they reached the Watcher's Hall, the storm had broken itself apart into mist and stars. The lantern hung from its hook and burned as it always had, patient and bright. Years passed. Elian aged as he should have, no faster, no slower. He taught the children the difference between light and time, between borrowing and belonging. The weather learned his moods. Sunshine when he laughed, rain when he remembered too much. On the night the 1,000th year arrived, the sky cleared as if someone had opened a window in the world. Elian trimmed nothing. He stood beneath the lantern and felt the flame lean toward him, familiar as breath. Outside, the wind waited. The flame went out. Rain pressed its face to the glass. Wind worried the eaves. Night leaned close.